On the day my twin sister was buried, Jiang sat in front of the grave for 3 days without eating or drinking. Who in the village wouldn't sigh and say their love was deep but their fate was shallow? Even my own mother accused me, demanding to know why I had to steal Jiang away. It seemed everyone had chosen to forget that Jiang was my husband of 32 years. At midnight, I staggered across the wide road in a daze, and a truck came speeding toward me. I could dodge it, but I didn't want to. Jiang pushed me away and collapsed in a pool of blood. He begged me, if there is an afterlife, to return him clean and pure to his sister. What is clean? I laughed hysterically. When I opened my eyes again, it was the winter of 1977. The very beginning of all the disrupted fates. Ivy, are you really not going to be with Jiang anymore? Jiang is one of the only two in the village, besides your sister, who got into college. He's the finest young man in the village. Ivy Shen shook her mother's hand and whined, Mom, I'm about to go to college in the city. What kind of man couldn't I find? Why should I cling to Jiang, a country bumpkin? Seeing her mother's stance soften, Ivy Shen pressed her advantage. It's not entirely a bad idea. Why let the good water flow to others' fields? My sister is single. Why not pair Jiang with her? No, no way. Her mother waved her hands repeatedly, firm in her refusal. I could let your sister give up her college opportunity for you, but this matter with Jiang is absolutely out of the question. The villagers would laugh at our family. Mom, Ivy Shen pretended to ram her head into the wall, acting as if she would rather die. Mom, if you don't agree, I'll just kill myself by bashing my head in. Mother tightly hugged the pretentious Ivy Shen from behind, crying sorrowfully, My darling, you're breaking your mother's heart. I agree, all right. I stood outside the door, peering through the crack, and saw their performance clearly. So that's how it was. So that's how it really was. I mean, in my past life, although I had feelings for Jiang, I never said or did anything improper. Later, when I found out that my younger sister and Jiang had started a relationship, I was heartbroken, but I didn't show it on my face. In daily life, I avoided Jiang like the plague, not even speaking a word to him voluntarily. But one day, when Jiang came to our house to see my sister, I was caught in bed with him by the villagers. Turns out, all of this was orchestrated by my dear sister and my wonderful mother. To think I spent my past life feeling guilty about this and voluntarily gave up the precious opportunity to attend college for my sister. She became the college student Shen Jiaojiao, while I married Jiang under her name, Ivy Shen. Turns out, she and my mother had long coveted my chance to go to university. My dear sister, the man, I'll return him to you. Give me back my chance to go to college. In just 1 more month, I could have left the village for Kyoto University. Shen Jiaojiao. I turned toward the voice and saw Jiang standing not far from my house, waving at me. Jiang is handsome and tall, easily attracting girls' attention, but all I can think about is him lying in a pool of blood, begging me, if there's a next life, to return him clean and whole to my sister, Shen Jiaojiao. I'm calling you, didn't you hear? Seeing no response from me, Jiang shamelessly grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward the grove. I shook off his hand and even spat in his face, angrily saying, Jiang, if you're sick, go get treated. Why are you dragging me around like a madman? Don't forget you're my sister's boyfriend. Jiang stood frozen in place, carefully examining the expression on my face. I had known the moment he called out to me. Jiang had also been reborn. I hated how well I understood him, yet clearly, he didn't know me as deeply as I knew him. Jiang hastily concluded that he was the only one who had been reborn. He couldn't contain his excitement. Nothing in this life would stop him from being with Ivy forever. As I was about to leave, Jiang spoke in a low voice behind me, as if muttering to himself or warning me. Shen Jiaojiao, whether you think I'm talking nonsense or being absurd, I have to say these words. Don't like me anymore. I don't like you at all. I only like your sister. If I married you, I'd get a vasectomy and not even give you a child. We'd be a miserable couple for life. Jiang sure knows how to stab me in the heart. In my past life, I never had children to conceive. I went to the hospital countless times and tried many folk remedies for pregnancy, even losing 20 to 30 pounds in a month. Back then, Jiang once held me tenderly and said we didn't need children, that it would just be him and me for life. I truly thought I'd married a good man and gave my all to him and his family, but the real culprit who made me infertile was him. How dare he in his previous life blame the inability to conceive entirely on me? People can always be worse than you thought. I kept walking without stopping until I closed the courtyard gate, then I slid to my knees, touching my face. I found it was wet with tears. If you don't love me, why did you marry me? To bully me, humiliate me, and squeeze every last bit of value out of me. If you don't love me, then why push me away and save my life, at the cost of your own? Mom's calling you in to cook. Shen Jiaojiao came out, completely indifferent to my unusual behavior, shouting at me. I looked up steadily at the twin sister who bore a striking resemblance to me, thinking how different our fates were despite looking alike. Ivy Shen has been coquettish and cute since childhood, while I have a reserved personality. Don't like to smile, and am not as good at pleasing adults as Shen Jiaojiao. My mother loved taking Ivy Shen around the village, listening to others praise her. She was raised by my mother to be fair-skinned and delicate, with a spoiled temperament, while my appearance was like a downgraded version of hers, dark, thin, and gaunt. What are you looking at? Ivy Shen asked curiously. I wiped away my tears and retorted, first of all, I'm your sister, so address me properly. Secondly, cooking isn't just my responsibility. You can cook too. I stood up, pushed past her with my shoulder, and went straight back to my room. I've figured it out. In my past life, I was too soft-spoken, which is why people took advantage of me. This time around, I'm going to be like a firecracker. Whoever provokes me will get an explosion. Jiao, do you think Mom is getting old? I've only done housework for 2 days, and my back is already sore and aching. I glanced at my mom indifferently. It seemed to me that it wasn't her back that was sore and aching, but rather her eyes that were uncomfortable. Since elementary school, I've had to help with household chores, and as I grew older, I became the main person responsible for them. Now, just because I took a break for 2 days, my mom looks at me with nothing but disapproval. Nothing seems right to her, but Shen Jiaojiao has never lifted a finger to help with anything, not even to pick up a fallen soy sauce bottle. Why doesn't Mom say anything to her? Seeing that I wasn't responding, my mom threw down the kitchen knife, pointed at my nose, and scolded me. Shen Jiaojiao, I see you've barely gotten into college and already think you're too good for chores or farm work. Are you trying to rebel? Maybe you should just give your college spot to Jiaojiao instead. The truth is out. No matter, I'll handle it. I rushed out of the house, crying and shouting, I don't want to live anymore. After finally getting into college, my mom is telling me not to go and to let my younger sister attend instead. Let me die. Jiaojiao, come back quickly. Let's talk this through properly. My mom chased after me, trying to stop me from speaking out. Stopping was impossible, and dying was out of the question. I ran a full lap around the village, making sure every villager knew just how far my mother's favoritism could go. In my past life, I suffered because I was too reserved, keeping all my thoughts bottled up inside. Not this time around. Talking big is easy as pie. Seeing the timing was about right, I slowed down and headed toward the riverside, where I was quickly embraced by Aunt Wang, the village's kind-hearted soul. Burrowing into her arms, I wailed pitifully, once again recounting my mother's blatant favoritism in detail. My mother tried several times to drag me back, but Aunt Wang kept blocking her. Nonsense. Village Chief Li stepped out from the crowd with a stern face, scolding my mother. Suifan, was it your idea to have the younger sister take the older sister's school spot? My mother still wanted to argue, but I suddenly wailed even louder, and the villagers began to criticize both her and my younger sister. My mother's face turned bright red. She cares deeply about her reputation, and this time, she lost both face and dignity. She looked at me pleadingly, but I was too busy crying. Then she turned to my sister, who, always protective of her own reputation, hid behind the crowd to avoid our mother's gaze. Finally giving up, she muttered, I was just joking with Jiaojiao. Joking? How can you joke about something like this? It seems to me that ever since Shen Guofu passed away, you as a mother have been acting more and more irresponsibly. Village Chief Li declared firmly, don't ever bring up the idea of replacing someone for school again. That's illegal. Yes, I understand. My mother immediately responded. My gaze passed through the crowd and landed on my sister's face, which was full of resentment. Just by looking at her expression, I knew this wasn't over. From childhood to adulthood, anything that belonged to me and she wanted, my sister would take without asking, directly claiming it as her own. That evening, my mother surprisingly boiled 3 eggs. She, my younger sister, and I, each of us got one. In the past, my mom would only boil 2 eggs, claiming it was one for me and one for my sister, but I always felt bad for her and gave my egg to mom. Turns out the best solution was simply to boil 3 eggs. Ivy, are you home? Kei Jiang's voice came from outside the door. Ivy Shen gave me a triumphant glance, her head held so high it might as well have touched the sky, and strode out with her chest puffed up. An involuntary pang shot through my heart, which I attributed to withdrawal symptoms. After all, in my past life, I had been married to Kei Jiang for 30 years, long enough to find a few sweet crumbs even in a pile of shattered glass. Jiao Jiao, don't be angry with your sister, that's just how her temper is. My mother said with an ingratiating smile. Actually, I've had a question weighing on my mind for a long time, and I just blurted it out. Mom, I was only born 1 minute earlier than Ivy Shen. But in your eyes, does that make such a big difference? You've always told me since I was little that I'm the older sister, that I have to give in to her, take care of her, and shoulder the responsibilities of being the elder sister. But I'm only 1 minute older than her. Can't you be a little less biased? Hearing this, my mom's eyes turned red, and tears started streaming down her face. She even acted hurt, saying, "How have I been biased? Your father passed away early, and I've had to be both mother and father to you 2 sisters all by myself. Do you have any idea how hard that's been? And now you're blaming me. Will you only be satisfied when I'm dead? If this had happened in the past, I would have already been on my knees, apologizing to her. In my past life, I learned a term. PUA, my mom is PUAing me. She saves her tears for me and her smiles for my sister. No child should bear their parents' negative emotions. Seeing me standing there with my arms crossed, staring coldly at her, my mom couldn't keep crying anymore and went to wash the dishes herself. Ivy Shen walked in with a bag of pastries, her face glowing with excitement. Kei Jiang said he needs to talk to you. Seeing me sitting on the stool with no intention of going out to meet Kei Jiang, she grew anxious. Kei Jiang is waiting for you outside. How can you be so rude and not even go out to see him? I gave her a cool glance. Don't tell me you haven't married him yet, even if you did. Which law states that just because my future brother-in-law wants to see me, I must see him. Ivy Shen, used to being domineering, simply dragged me outside. I was caught off guard and actually got dragged out of the courtyard by her. Kei Jiang, my sister is bullying me. Kei Jiang comforted Ivy Shen with tenderness, only to turn and scold me when facing me. Shen Jiao Jiao, as an older sister, can't you stop bullying your younger sister all the time? I rubbed my wrist, reddened from Ivy Shen's grip, and hid the swollen hand behind my back. I lowered my head to suppress the bitterness in my heart, then raised my face again, hardening my expression. Coldness is my disguise, my armor, my last shred of pride and dignity. What does our family matter have to do with an outsider like you? Kei Jiang exclaimed in shock. Shen Jiao Jiao, how can you be such a despicable person, bullying your younger sister, and when I reason with you, you're not ashamed but actually proud of it. Yes, I'm despicable, you're noble. This despicable person won't stay here to offend the eyes of you noble folks. I turned to leave. Kei Jiang grabbed my wrist, and I let out a hiss of pain. He immediately released his grip, his voice filled with concern and urgency. What's wrong with your hand? None of your business. If you have something to say, just say it. I withdrew my hand, but my heart still softened uncontrollably at his concern. Kei Jiang's gaze remained fixed on my injured wrist, as if realizing it had been hurt by Ivy Shen just moments ago. Kei Jiang, Ivy Shen shook his arm, coquettishly pleading. Kei Jiang turned his head to look at the radiant Ivy Shen, recalling the regrets from his past life. He turned to look at me, his eyes evasive. Jiao Jiao, you have good grades. Could you give up your university spot to Ivy? You can take the exam again next year. Okay. I pressed my hand against my chest. How could it hurt this much? Bang! I slapped myself hard across the face, completely severing the part of me that still held any hope for Kei Jiang. Kei Jiang didn't know why, but looking at Shen Zhaozhao's expressionless face, he felt a sudden panic, as if he had lost something important. Kei Jiang, you also got into university. Why don't you give your spot to my sister? Why do you always have to pick on me alone? Jiang was the reborn Jiang. He clearly knew how much I envied my sister for finishing university in my past life. How much I regretted not going to college. Sis, Jiang is a guy. How can I take over a guy's university spot? Ivy Shun complained. What does that have to do with me? I looked at this sister of mine. We were born of the same mother, should have been the closest two people in the world. But our mother had forcibly raised us to be completely different. Jiang, don't come looking for me anymore. I can't help my sister. You too. I paused, though with difficulty. I still said it clearly. I wish you both a long and happy marriage, and may you have children soon. Jiang took several steps back, his face pale, looking at me with heartache, as if what I said wasn't a blessing but a vicious curse. For the next half-month, my mother was much quieter, always seeming to want to say something when facing me, but I pretended not to notice. Ivy Shun, on the other hand, took pleasure in talking to herself in front of me about how good Jiang was to her and how strong their relationship was. I treated her words like passing gas, counting down the days until I could leave. Finally, only 7 days remained before I could escape from my unloving family and head to the university I longed for. Shen Jiao, are you even listening to me? Ivy Shen shoved me. I dug at my ear and replied lazily, I heard you. You asked where my admission letter is. None of your damn business. I also heard you say you wanted me to trade my college admission for Jiang, but I refuse, I sneered mockingly. So, in both past and present lives, Jiang meant so little to Ivy Shen. For someone like her, who never truly cared for him. He pined for a lifetime and deceived me for a lifetime. I truly feel unworthy of it all. You refuse. How dare you refuse? Ivy Shen's face twisted in fury, her voice shrill. Don't you love Jiang? My expression turned cold. When did I ever say I liked Jiang? If I hear this rumor outside, I'll tear your mouth apart. Jiao, say less. My mother stepped in to mediate. I shrugged indifferently, watching as my mother and Ivy Shen whispered something to each other. I knew they were up to no good again, but all I had to do was carefully get through these last 7 days. But it wasn't until I was home alone and saw Jiang that I realized they were trying to pull the same trick again. Holding a wooden stick, I cautiously stood at the courtyard gate, ready to retreat at the first sign of trouble. After just half a month apart, Jiang's demeanor had changed noticeably, from a warm, sunny guy to a brooding, sinister man. Don't run, he said, I just came to talk to you. I gripped the wooden stick in my hand tightly and warned him. Stay where you are and talk from there. Don't come any closer, or this stick won't recognize who you are. I've been keeping my distance from Jiang this whole time. Jiang punched the earthen wall of my house with force, his expression dejected as he muttered under his breath. Ivy said you take pleasure in bullying her at home. She clearly does well in school but deliberately underperforms in exams just to avoid making you angry. That you like me and want to compete with her for my attention. I thought you were a scheming person who broke up Ivy and me. But why? His words trailed off as he stole a glance at my expression. Half of my face was hidden behind the door, my expression flickering uncertainly. I understood what Jiang meant. He had noticed how I'd been avoiding him lately. Yet today he still let Ivy Shen trick him into coming here. At this point, even if Jiang were the slowest, he would realize that the past life had nothing to do with me. He felt wronged in his past life, forced to marry me. But wasn't I just as forced to marry him? Jiang slowly approached me, his deep, affectionate eyes locking onto mine. Jiao, you're the only one who truly cared for me. I swung the wooden stick, aiming straight for Jiang's head. Get lost. If you come near me again, I'll scream for help. If you were really charged with harassment, Jiang's life would be ruined. Don't shout, I'm leaving. Jiang covered his head and fled in panic, choosing to escape for the sake of his future. Hiding in the shadows, Ivy Shen suddenly jumped out and accused me. How could you drive Jiang away from me? I stared coldly at Ivy Shen and my mother standing behind her. I couldn't stay in this house any longer. Who knows what underhanded tricks the scheming Ivy Shen might pull next. I had to leave immediately. I planned to go to town to see second uncle, who is the kindest person to me, loving me 10,000 times more than my own mother. Second uncle is my father's younger brother, and the two brothers were extremely close. Second uncle always says it was because of supporting his education that my father overworked himself and died young. So after my father passed away, second uncle sent money and ration tickets to my mother every month. My mother always claims she raised me, but deep down, we all know it was actually second uncle who supported me. My mother is fortunate. She relied on my father when he was alive, and after he was gone, she leaned on second uncle. With me doing all the housework, she still spends her days lamenting her misfortunes like Xiangling's wife, complaining to anyone who would listen. In my previous life, he knew I gave up the chance to go to university for Ivy Shen and stayed in the countryside to get married. He tried to persuade me many times. But because of Ke Jiang, I said some harsh words to him, and my uncle eventually gave up on me, leaving disappointed. After being reborn in this life, I hid important documents like the admission notice at my uncle's place. To avoid complications, I should leave this home first, but when I pushed the door, I found it locked from the outside with a padlock. Ivy Shen's voice came from outside. Shen Jiao, hand over the admission letter. If you don't even think about leaving this room. How can I give you the admission letter if you don't open the door? Pass it to me through the door crack. Seeing that Ivy Shen wasn't falling for it, I honestly told her, Ivy Shen, the admission letter isn't with me. Ivy Shen laughed, her laughter wild and triumphant. No admission letter means no admission letter then. If I can't go to college, Shen Jiao, don't even think about going either. I've been trapped in this pitch-black room for 4 days now. As the time for university registration draws nearer, I pace back and forth like a caged beast. Jiao, Mom, I pounded on the door, pleading with her, Mom, I beg you, let me out, let me go to college. I won't have to pay tuition for college, I won't spend the family's money, and I'll even earn money to support you. My mom was startled by my intense emotions and hesitated. But Ivy, seeing a glimmer of hope, I coaxed her. Ivy and I are sisters, there's no lasting grudge between us. If I do well, I'll help Ivy too. Mom, I've never asked you for anything my whole life. I'm begging you just this once. Can you help me? There was no sound from outside for a long time. Just as I was about to lose hope, I finally heard the sound of a key turning in the lock. At that moment, Ivy Shen's icy voice rang out, Mom, if you let Shen Jiao go out to college, I swear I'll kill myself. Choose, me or her. My mom stopped turning the key. From hope to despair, it turns out to be just a matter of seconds. Tick, tock, I counted the desperate seconds. Only to hear my mother's voice, Jiao, just listen to your sister this once. Just as I suspected, I muttered to myself, Mom, why can't you ever take my side just once? Ha, Shen Jiao, what makes you think you can compare to me? Ivy Shen sneered, this is the confidence only a perpetually favored child can possess. Refusing to back down, I snapped back at her, Ivy Shen, go ahead and lock me up forever if you dare, I'll make it to college eventually. This house can't contain me forever. Even if I truly can't attend university this year, there's always next year, the year after, or the year after that. I will make it to college someday. You'll never set foot in a university. I was taken aback and asked in confusion, what do you mean? Exactly what it says. Ivy Shen drew out her tone, telling me one thing, Mom, and I have picked a husband for you. Wang Dakue from the village, I suppose you know him, right? The village's notorious slacker, an alcoholic who beats his wife. His previous wife was beaten so badly that she ran away without looking back. TSK, Shen Jiao, look at you. I told you to marry Ke Jiang, but you refused. Are you happy now that you're to marry Wang Dakue? Mom, is this true? I had given up on Ivy Shen, given up on Ke Jiang, but I still held on to a sliver of hope for my mother. Jiao, perhaps, Wang Dakue isn't as bad as the village rumors say. Ha ha ha, I burst into laughter, holding my stomach. The biggest joke I've heard in both my past and present life was actually told to me by my own mother. If Wang Dakue isn't that bad, then why didn't you marry him? Why didn't Ivy Shen marry him either? Let me tell you, I won't marry anyone. I'd rather die than marry you. My mother was so angry she couldn't even speak and was taken away by Ivy Shen. Late at night, Ke Jiang's voice sounded outside the door. Jiao, I heard about what happened to you. Why don't you just marry me? But you still have to give this university opportunity to Ivy. I've thought it through. Your grades are good. so you can try again next year. I lifted my face from my knees and said wearily, Jiang, do you really think you're so noble, sacrificing yourself for Ivy and your so-called great love? But in my eyes, you're nothing more than a selfish, self-serving, despicable person. Let me tell you, I don't like you and I don't want to marry you. Only now do I realize that I truly no longer have any feelings for Jiang. It's just that in my past life, I hadn't met enough men, which is why I was hung up on a dead end like Jiang. Jiang retorted, how could that be? How could you not like me? You hand-copied exercise books for me, helped me with my weak subjects, and wrote over a dozen study notes for me. How is that not liking me? So, I had liked him that much before, but through the hardships of my past life, I had completely forgotten all these things. Jiang, if you think I was ever good to you, if you've ever felt grateful for my kindness even for a moment, then let me go. No, if you leave, you won't come back. Wait for me. I'll break up with Ivy tomorrow and marry you, from day to night, and back to day. I sat listlessly on the ground when my gaze suddenly fell upon the matches and the kerosene lamp. Fire! Help put out the fire, a villager shouted. My mother grabbed someone and asked curiously, whose house is on fire? Tsuefen, why are you still wandering outside? It's your house that's on fire. By the time my mother arrived, she saw half the house burned pitch black, and Shen Jiao was nowhere to be seen. She grabbed the stunned Jiang and asked, where's my Jiao? Where is she? Is she okay? Jiang pushed my mother away and said bitterly, she's gone. She's never coming back. Jiang blamed my mother, believing that if it weren't for her pressure, I wouldn't have fled the village so resolutely. Not coming back. My mother's voice trembled as she sat on the ground, utterly devastated, indifferent to the house with one room burned down and to Ivy Shun, who hadn't returned home yet. It was as if she had briefly awakened, showing a flicker of maternal love for me. Jiang was among the first villagers to arrive to fight the fire. By the time he got there, the flames were already raging, and he was ready to rush into the room to save me without a second thought. But my second uncle was faster, charging into the house with a soaking wet blanket draped over him. When I woke up and saw my uncle, I hugged him and burst into tears, genuinely heartbroken this time. I had only intended to burn the wooden door, but I underestimated the fire's intensity. The flames quickly spread through the room, and the thick smoke left me disoriented. Fortunately, my uncle had come to visit, timing it around when I was supposed to leave for university, and coincidentally saved my life. Thankfully, the firefighters arrived in time, preventing a major disaster. Seeing that my uncle was about to take me away, Jiang hurriedly caught up, his eyes pleading, Shen Jiao, let's talk. I agreed, while my uncle glared fiercely at Jiang from a distance, as if guarding the family's prized cabbage from being trampled by a pig. Go ahead, I said, looking at the man before me. There was no love, no hatred. My gaze was as calm as if I were looking at a stranger. Jiao, don't look at me like that. Jiang covered my eyes with his hand, his voice trembling with tears. I'll leave if there's nothing more to say. Don't go, Jiao. It was only when you were in the fire that I realized. I love you, can't you just? No. Out of gratitude for him saving me today, I added one more sentence. The love I once had was real, and so is the fact that I don't love you now. As for what happened in my past life, let's just treat it as a dream. Having said that, I think it's enough. As I left with my second uncle, the heart-wrenching cries of Jiang echoed behind us, along with the sound of him calling my name. Yet neither my second uncle nor I turned back. You still have the nerve to smile. Do you realize you almost lost your life? Second uncle poked my forehead angrily. I'm sorry, second uncle. I obediently admitted my mistake. In my past life, I was trapped in the village by Jiang and my mother in the name of love, doing farm work, taking care of the elderly, and slaving away for them. In this life, I've finally escaped the cage. I'm so happy. I spread my arms, breathing in the air of freedom outside. From now on, the sky is high and the sea is wide. No one can trap me again. You really have some nerve. Second uncle saw my face blackened by smoke and my long hair singed unevenly, his heart aching too much to actually scold me. He couldn't help but blame his sister-in-law in his heart. How could she push a perfectly good child to such extremes? I grinned and said, no wonder second aunt says my temper is just like yours. looking for a beating. Are you? Second uncle raised his hand but ended up laughing too. When I arrived at uncle's house, I stood at the door, hesitant to enter the bright and clean living room. What? Do I need to invite you in? Aunt had already prepared the meal at home and looked at me with a smile. Seeing that I was still hesitating to come in, she came out and pulled me inside. At uncle's house, I spent the only happy day since my rebirth. I got up in the middle of the night and overheard a conversation between my second uncle and aunt before even leaving the room. My aunt's voice was choked with tears. You've never hesitated to help your brother's family, and I've never said a word against it. But look at Jiao Jiao today. When I held her, she was so thin it hurt. How has your sister-in-law been raising that child? All right, keep your voice down. It's not good if the child hears. I won't keep quiet. Jiao Jiao is going to college now. You must redirect part of the money and ration coupons you send to your sister-in-law's family to Jiao Jiao, or I won't let this go. I know. Tell me, how did I end up marrying such a wonderful woman like you? I covered my mouth tightly, not letting a single sob escape. Because of my family, second uncle has been living a tight budget all these years, and even my cousins chose to live at school to save money. They are so good to me. How could I bear to trouble them further? Jiao Jiao, come out for dinner. Aunt called from outside the door, but there was no response. She pushed the door open. The room was empty. On the table, she found the letter I left behind, along with an IOU, in 1977. University tuition was free, but I still needed to live, so I took 20 yuan from the envelope uncle had given me the day before and left before dawn. I entered university, living a life that was frugal yet fulfilling. I survive on steamed buns for every meal. I originally thought that coming to university would allow me to spare some time for part-time jobs to earn money and support myself, only to realize that expectations are plump while reality is bony. My major in university is foreign languages, a field I had never touched in my previous life. Rebirth hasn't given me any academic advantages, and on top of that, my classmates are all striving harder than one another, competing to see who wakes up earlier and sleeps later. In such an environment, forget about going out to work and earn money. I even recite vocabulary in my dreams while sleeping. 3 months into the semester, even with my utmost frugality, my $20 have hit rock bottom. I went from eating 3 steamed buns a day to 1 bun a day, and now just drinking water. My body finally couldn't take it anymore, and I fainted during a class. When I opened my eyes, I was already surrounded by my classmates. They all spoke up. Some offered to take notes for me, others said they could introduce me to tutoring jobs through family connections, and so on. Not a single person showed disdain or dislike because of my poverty. It was the first time I truly understood what camaraderie among classmates meant. People would argue fiercely over whose pronunciation was more standard, or stare intently at you to catch up if your grades were better than theirs. What they competed for was striving upward, what they pursued was mutual progress. Professor Chin, who taught the specialized course, shooed away the noisy classmates and handed me an envelope, saying sternly, "Consider this money as a loan from me. Pay me back when you can afford it. If you don't take it, you're not allowed in my class." Being my student means following my rules. I accepted everyone's kindness, carefully recording every bit of goodwill shown to me with a pen. They didn't ask for anything in return, but I am someone who repays every favor. Whether it's fetching a thermos of hot water, bringing back dinner, or doing whatever small things I can manage, I study more diligently, working hard and harder. Only then can I live up to others' help and live up to myself. 3 months later, my second uncle also rushed to the school to find me, covered in dust, almost beating me in public. It turned out that after I left, my second uncle had been sending me money and coupons, but because the address was inaccurate, they were returned every time. This time, he saved up his leave and set off to the school to find me. Only after I promised him that I would eat properly, accepted the money and coupons he sent, and added all sorts of coquettish pleas for forgiveness, did my second uncle reluctantly forgive me. I learned from my second uncle that since I left, the money he gave to my mom and the others had been halved. Ivy Shun took my mom to their house to make a scene several times, but in the end, under the threat from my second aunt that if you keep making trouble, you'll get nothing at all, they slunk away and silently accepted that the amount would remain that small from then on. My second uncle also told me that my mom had quietly asked him several times about my whereabouts, but he held firm and didn't tell her. He also mentioned that my mom now looks several years older, with half her hair turned white, and she appears utterly worn out. Seeing my cold and stern expression, second uncle gave up the idea of persuading me to reconcile with the family. After all, he had witnessed firsthand how I had struggled to escape that household just to pursue my education. On the day second uncle left the capital, I watched his retreating figure, and tears suddenly streamed down my face. The long blurred image of my father became vividly clear in that moment. The 4 years of university flew by quickly amid the competitive atmosphere among classmates. All my past unhappiness seemed to have vanished. I grew new flesh and blood, becoming a completely different person from who I was before. I am confident, sunny, and full of boundless vitality. During that time, apart from actively reaching out to my second uncle and his family, I never contacted anyone else from home. Jiang did come to see me many times, but I never met him. Later, he got smarter and asked students from other departments at our school to deliver letters for him, bringing me food, daily necessities, and even money and coupons, but I returned every single one of them. And my classmates could also see how exasperated I was by Jiang's behavior, so they deliberately helped me block students from other departments from approaching, even if Jiang still had the intention to find me. The goodwill of students from other departments couldn't withstand his repeated impositions, and they eventually gave up helping him. During those 4 years, my mother also came to the university to look for me twice. Now under 50, she looked even older than she had in her 60s or 70s in my previous life. Well, in my past life, with me by her side taking meticulous care of her, she didn't have to lift a finger, just boss me around. In this lifetime, this hard-working and uncomplaining workhorse of mine has run away, and Ivy Shun is someone who does nothing at all, so naturally, she has to handle everything herself. On top of that, Ivy Shun keeps making things difficult for her, so it's no wonder she's aging quickly, but both times, I dismissed her hastily. The last time, I told her, "Don't come looking for me anymore, once you reach the legal retirement age. I'll send you a monthly living allowance according to the minimum standard required by law. Our mother-daughter bond is over in this lifetime. Maybe you won't believe it, but I've taken care of you for a lifetime and endured your complaints for just as long. I've repaid everything I owed." She left my school trembling. And from then on, she truly never bothered me again. After graduation, due to my outstanding academic performance and strong recommendations from my school teachers, I secured a job at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As work became increasingly busy, I sent my entire monthly salary back to my second uncle and his family. If they refused to accept it, I would threaten to throw it away, leaving them with no choice but to take it. I never pursued romantic relationships. Of course, there were many excellent and like-minded suitors around me, but I always turned them down outright. It wasn't out of fear, I simply had no interest. I felt completely indifferent toward men, romance, and marriage. At first, my uncle and the others tried to persuade me, but later, seeing that I was doing just fine on my own, they gave up the idea. After my uncle and aunt retired, I brought them to the capital to live with me. Under the pretense of helping them relax, they tried to return all the money I had sent them over the years. I hadn't realized it until I checked. It amounted to nearly 300,000 yuan. After some thought, I accepted it. Then, I gathered another 500,000 yuan with the help of a few close friends and bought a courtyard house in the city center for them to live in. They talk about waste, but their happiness is visibly evident after moving in. Uncle's latest hobby is strolling in the park and chatting with old Beijing locals, while Aunt has embarked on a second career, starting a small business in the city. When Aunt mentioned wanting to start a business, she glanced at me nervously, afraid I might find it embarrassing. I smiled and said, "As long as you're happy, I'll always be your strongest support." I'll never forget how warm Aunt's hug was when I worried about dirtying her living room. As my younger cousins grew up and became capable of working, I strongly recommended they come to the capital for jobs. Firstly, the city offers greater development potential, and secondly, it was my personal wish to keep my uncle and aunt close to me, even if work prevented us from meeting every day. Just knowing there were people in this city waiting for me to come home was enough to settle my heart. My words carried weight in my uncle's household, and my cousins valued my advice, so they truly came to the capital to build their careers. As long as it didn't violate organizational rules, I did everything I could to help them, whether with housing, food, transportation, or work. They, in turn, never hesitated to tell everyone I was like an older sister to them. I listened with a smile. You reap what you sow, and I am the bean that second uncle and second aunt reaped for themselves. I think, in this lifetime, I have achieved fulfillment. Aunt Suafen, are you home? Zhong Suafen sat in front of the television, not knowing when Zhao Zhao would appear, so she resorted to the simplest method, keeping watch whenever she had time. Ah, here it comes. She was already showing signs of old age, leaning on a cane as she slowly shuffled toward the yard. Kui Xiuxiu looked at the dilapidated house, unable to comprehend it. This old woman, too. It was said that in her youth, she had favored her younger daughter, driving away her capable eldest daughter in anger. The younger daughter married a college graduate from the same village, but as the old woman grew older, she found herself missing the eldest daughter who had left, alone in this crumbling old house. She insisted it was so her eldest daughter would have a home to return to if she ever came back. Kui Xiuxiu also knew about that capable eldest daughter, often seeing her speaking for the nation on television. Ah, it can only be said that the pitiable have their own faults, Auntie Tsuafen. This is the living allowance Zhao Zhao sent you this month. Zhong Tsuafen took it and carefully tucked it into her pocket. This was her only connection with Shen Zhao Zhao, after Zhong Tsuafen turned 60. Shen Zhao Zhao truly did as she had said, sending money to Zhong Tsuafen every month. Aunt Tsuafen, that room in your house has been burned for nearly 20 years. After you get the money, you should still hire someone to fix it. Ah, alright. Kui Xiuxiu was helpless. No matter what she said to Aunt Tsuafen, she would always agree, but whether she would actually do it was another matter entirely. Not long after Kui Xiuxiu left, rural woman Ivy Shun kicked open the rickety door and shouted, "You old hag, Shen Zhao Zhao sent you money again today, didn't she? Hand it over. You keep watching TV, but no matter how much you watch, Shen Zhao Zhao won't come back." Only after Ivy Shun had cursed her fill did she leave contentedly with the money. Zhong Tsuafen muttered numbly, "It's all sin, all sin." Ivy Shun took the money, spent it all outside with her lover, and then swaggered back home. "Where have you been? None of your business." Ivy Shun looked disdainfully at the disheveled Cade Jiang. Cade Jiang noticed the red marks on Ivy Shun's neck, his veins bulging in anger as he grabbed her. "You cheating slut, I want a divorce." The emaciated Cade Jiang, who was nothing but skin and bones, was no match for the obese Ivy Shun and was pinned to the ground and beaten by her. Only after she had beaten him enough did Ivy Shun spit on him with a P2E before swaggering off. Cade Jiang lay motionless on the ground, reflecting on his miserable life. He couldn't understand how he had ended up like this, because he couldn't marry Shen Zhao Zhao. He married Ivy Shun instead. Ivy Shun turned his Jiang family upside down, and his parents died from the anger she caused them. He gave up on himself, refusing to work or go out, just bickering with Ivy Shun at home. Ivy Shun, who had died young in his previous life, now grew healthier and stronger through their constant quarrels. While his own health deteriorated, without Shen Zhao Zhao, he realized he was nothing. Meanwhile, Shen Zhao Zhao's life only improved after leaving him. "Zhao Zhao, come back, come back. I don't want that awful Ivy Shun anymore. I only want you." Cade Jiang reached his hand toward the scorching sun, but the sun remained silent. Hanging high in the sky,